So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today we're going to be talking about Vietnamese labor unions, and well, it looks like this communist country is going to respect and recognize them now. And I think that's a very interesting turn of events in Vietnam. So I've done a couple videos on this topic before. Link down below if you would like to watch those. They're kind of my older ones when I'm still learning how to make videos. But of course, we'll go to Vietnam, and labor unions in Vietnam have a complex history intertwined with the country's political and economic development. They were initially established during French colonial rule, and they were obviously addressing very harsh working conditions, evolving significantly through the Vietnam War era and subsequent socialist regime. Now, the Vietnam General Confederation of Labor is the predominant labor organization with a focus on representing workers' interests within a framework closely aligned with the Communist Party. And the problem here is that they haven't done a great job of representing the workers' interests. And frankly, while the Communist Party and the state are one and the same, they're more likely to represent the views of the state. And so as a result, strikes are very rare in Vietnam, but when they do happen, quite frequently they're considered to be wildcat strikes. And what I mean by wildcat strikes here are illegal strikes because they are not sanctioned by the VGCL, and that is an interesting dynamic for a communist country who in theory should be in full support of workers' rights. So in order to appease the multinationals, the National Assembly in Vietnam is looking at ratifying the United Nations International Labor Organization's Convention 87. And so you see Convention 87 here, specifically the freedom of association and protection of the right to organize convention, signed in 1948. And specifically Article 3 says that workers and employers organizations shall have the right to draw up their constitutions and rules to elect their representatives in full freedom. And that's the key point. There's no real freedom in the VGCL to make these decisions, and as a result, there's not a lot of strikes. There's not a lot of interference, and when you do see them, they're not acceptable on the part of the VGCL. But you see here that it seems like neoliberalism is trying to drag Vietnam into this. Now, Hanoi said that they would ratify the convention by the end of 2023. Didn't do it. And they keep ratifying these, or they keep failing to ratify these ILO conventions over and over again. And they just, it doesn't seem like they're interested in it. They thought that they were going to have promises when the Trans-Pacific Partnership took place, as well as the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement. Which was entered in 2020, but again, it just hasn't done it. The UN has been given assurances that they will honor their commitment, but again, Vietnam has not. Vietnam keeps cracking down on independent labor groups. They did ratify the right to organize in collective bargaining in 2019, which is UN Convention 98. But they actually haven't done anything with it, right? So this is they ratified it 5 years ago, but it's been slow and delayed. So ultimately, the only trade unions legally permitted to operate inside the country of Vietnam is the Vietnam General Confederation of Labor, the VGCL, which is, again, in theory, in communist theory, the people are the state are the people, and the people are the workers. But ultimately, that's a very tight-run discussion in Vietnam. And so this has been a really big and important piece to free trade agreements with Vietnam, with the European Union. They keep getting promises on both sides, and it's not happening. Ultimately, I get the impression that this probably will never happen, or it will occur so slowly that they can't help but relent in 10 years or something of that nature. They did allow some movement in trade organizations, but it's just not enough. It's not fast enough. And so, as you see the world sort of pivot from China to Vietnam, India, etc., much of the world is hoping for both free trade and more workers' rights. And I suppose that, if you were working that long with China, I don't know how successful you or how much you actually care about workers' rights, but ultimately, Vietnam has not been successful in making that transition to a neoliberal economy. What do you think about this in this current state of the world and this economic agreements? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.